Welcome back to another episode of Is This Even Real? Roll it. Alright, so if you followed us for the intro in the episode 1, you're going to know that we left that off with kind of how we were going to start episode 2, but we are going to be changing that up. With some current events. Maybe we can touch on the whole, Elon Musk and Johnny Depp thing a later date, but we both feel as though the baby formula problem is a lot more important to talk about. So that's kind of what we're going to be diving into on this episode. So
I'm sure by now you've heard about this baby formula shortage. This was brought to my attention a couple weeks ago, and I believe I actually brought this up to you, Joe, but you probably don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember too much.
Because it wasn't in your face at the time, but now that it's been happening for a while, it's now become dire. And we were looking up the U.S.'s response on this on Google, and their response is to limit the amount that can be purchased, which doesn't really seem to be helpful.
Yeah, that doesn't solve the problem. A baby needs to eat.
But yeah, people are doing crazy things, going to crazy lengths right now in order to feed their babies, which just makes me personally so sad because I can't imagine the stress that they must be feeling right now.
Yeah, that's horrible. I mean, you're talking about feeding your child, your baby, infant. That's extremely stressful. That's it's a dire time.
Yeah.
It's just no joke.
As if being a new parent isn't hard enough, now you can't feed your own kid.
Correct. And not every woman out there can breastfeed. I understand that a lot of women have challenges with that. So that's where a lot of families are relying on the baby formula, which now they don't have access to. For what reason? Well, we're going to touch on that in a little bit.
Yeah, I just want to go back to what you just said. There's been a lot of ignorance on this situation, and comments are always saying, why don't you just breastfeed? Well, it's definitely not that easy. Some common issues are that people can't produce enough, or for myself personally, I wasn't able to breastfeed for too long because I developed mastitis. There are health problems that can arise, and it's just not as simple as just breastfeed.
Yeah, I can see how tough that would be. I mean, I can't say that I understand because I've never been in that situation. Again, that's a woman's world thing. I definitely feel for them. I'm not understanding why there is a shortage. It's not like all of a sudden overnight there was like 1 billion kids born and now there's no friggin' formula, you know what I mean? It does not logically make sense. And I think there's a lot of back work going on that the public doesn't know about. And I don't know, you want to get into that right now or?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I've found is that they're blaming it on, the supply shortages, and that being partially because of the war between Ukraine and Russia, since one of them is as a supplier of grain for us. But other than that, I haven't seen anything else official.
Right. So they're saying, of course, we're going to blame something else on this whole Ukrainian-Russian war, right? Why not? That seems to be the pegboard for everybody, which is absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. Same thing with these fuel prices, but I don't want to get off topic on that. So they're saying that a lot of the grain that we use for formulas and whatnot come from the Ukraine, correct?
I can't remember if it was Ukraine or Russia, but obviously one of them is a large supplier.
So let me ask this question. How is it that Mr. Bill Gates owns the largest amount of farmland in the United States? He has purchased, and he is now the proud owner of the most farmland in the U.S. How come he's not growing? Why did he buy all that farmland? Why was he buying family farms that were operational, and now he's just shutting it down? What's the purpose of this?
Good question. Why aren't we helping our own people in this country?
Well, that's because the government doesn't actually like to help its own people, but that's another topic. An interesting fact is that Mr. Bill Gates, Mr. Mark Zuckerberg, and Mr. Jeff Bezos, was it 2 years ago, in 2020, the three of them, they all decided to make their own baby formula company. It's BioMilk, BIOMILQ. And that seems to be in stock. Of course it is. The same thing with the Amazon brand formula. If you go on the American version of Amazon, they seem to be out of stock on everything except for Amazon's brand of baby formula. Yet, if you go to the Canadian Amazon, I mean they're stocked with the same products that we offer on the American Amazon. So how does that make sense? How does Canada have access to baby formulas, yet just across the border there on the same website we don't have access to it? Sounds a little fishy to me. That doesn't quite make sense. I mean, if it's Amazon, it's Amazon. If Amazon has it and they can sell it to one country, why can't they sell it to another country? Sounds like they're kind of playing a game here.
And that's definitely shocking and difficult to believe, but we did look for ourselves, and I'm sure that that's going around and just being viral and contributing to. Now you said that the Canadian formula is getting backstocked, right?
Some of the Canadian formula is getting backstocked, and I'm assuming that's due to the surge of Americans, ordering it or having their friends who live up in Canada or something along those lines. But it is readily available in Canada, whereas it is not available in the U.S. They're having issues with that throughout the 50 states, the whole United States. But again, it is readily available up in Canada.
This whole situation is really sad and insane to me. I've heard women using expired and recalled formula to feed their babies because it's better than nothing, which is absolutely devastating.
Well, I mean, let's put this into a realistic situation right now. What are you going to do? Hypothetically speaking, right now, say you had an infant, you could not breastfeed due to, whatever medical reasons or whatever the case be, and you needed formula. What are you going to do? These moms out there, they don't have a choice. And in my opinion, if my only choice was to give that baby expired formula, I mean, that's what you would have to do. I mean, think about it. Even if you were to call 911, right? Hey, this is an emergency. I can't feed my newborn. We don't have baby formula. What are they going to do? Mm-hmm. They don't have any. I mean, maybe some fire departments. If anybody out there knows that answer, I'd love to know. But I don't personally believe that, police departments and fire departments are stocked with baby formula. And if it is, it's probably pretty old. I mean, I don't think that's a call that you'd make on a regular basis. But again, who knows? Right. So what do you do in that situation? Mm-hmm. A baby can't eat hard foods. Mm-hmm. You can't do cereals and stuff like that. So what the hell are you supposed to do?
Right. I don't know. I would be pretty freaking stressed in this situation. No. Actually, what I would probably do is I would have to turn to my community and ask for breast milk, because what else can you do?
Right. So I'm gonna kind of take this a little off topic here for a minute, and you guys will see where I'm going with this. I feel as though a lot of these issues are on purpose, in my opinion. I mean, you don't just again, like I said, you don't just randomly, oh no, we can't get baby formula now. And then you have three of some of the richest people in the world creating their own formula company. That's not a coincidence. That doesn't just happen. Same thing with all these planes hitting food distribution facilities. That just doesn't happen. It's kind of odd how this is all lining up. I think, in my opinion, it's a control aspect. I think they're using this as a tactic. And what better way to take the blame off of them than to put it on Russia and Ukraine, right? I mean, that's what they're famous for doing. Oh, there's a problem in the country. It's their fault. It's not our fault. It's Iraq's fault, or it's Afghanistan's fault, or it's Russia's fault. They always put the blame somewhere else, but they need to be putting the blame on themselves, which we all know they won't do. So I'll get back on track now, and we'll go back to the baby formula.
I did read today that as long as your baby is over 6 months, they can now have regular whole cow's milk. Just FYI.
Okay. So now it's a matter of trying to find milk that doesn't have a bunch of chemicals in it, in the plastic bottles that you get over there at Walmart and all that. That's not real milk, man. They bleach it. They do all sorts of shit to it. So just more chemicals. The U.S. is famous for that. I know that we have a few listeners that are outside of the United States, so that is a big thing in the U.S. They love to feed us chemicals, and it is absolutely horrible. But at least that's a good option. If it's 6 months or older, you said. So 6 months or older, you can use whole milk.
Yeah, and also there's been something circulating where I think it was a recipe for homemade baby formula. You sent me that, and I definitely immediately questioned it. And I saw an article today, actually, where this pediatrician, Dr. Natasha Burgett from Kansas, actually says formulas are very, very specific in what nutrients they have, so I would absolutely not recommend making your own formula at home.
So I have some questions on that specifically. So, I mean, you said she's a pediatrician, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, she's a doctor. She went to school for a long time. I hope she knows what she's talking about if she's a doctor. But I guess it's safe to assume that she probably does, right, with a title like that? Now, my question, who's paying her to say that?
Why do you just assume that she's being paid?
Why do I assume that she's being paid?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, before you could readily buy baby formulas in store, now I'm talking about our parents' generation, how did they survive on it? Because that's how baby formulas were made back in the day. You made it at home. So how did a whole generation survive off of this shit? But today, it's dangerous. Don't do that. How does that make sense?
That's a good point, but I also feel like in retrospect, people realize later on that, we probably shouldn't have done that. That's probably not safe, probably not healthy. Like smoking cigarettes. People used to do that all the time. It was the norm. And it wasn't until, 10, 15 years ago that people were really pushing us to stop because it wasn't healthy after all.
Yeah, I'm going to totally agree with that. But like we were saying, what other option do you have? If you do not have an option of buying formula and your child is not old enough at that 6 month mark to have whole milk, what option do you have? You don't have an option. You're shit out of luck. So I think using a method that essentially raised a whole generation, I'd put my money on it for not forever. I wouldn't do it forever because, like you said, everything changes. Knowledge changes. I completely agree with that. But maybe while we're in this massive shortage, I think that would be a good solution for now. And the whole thing with this doctor being paid off, I'm just saying that out of the fact that it's not uncommon for when things like this happen for doctors to be paid off, because these bigger companies, these people that are paying, so essentially, hypothetically, if I'm right on this whole, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, that whole thing, if I am right about that whole thing, they're not going to come out and tell you that you shouldn't make your own baby formula. No, they're going to find somebody who has a degree, who has credentials, and they're going to pay them a lot of money, and they're going to say, you have to say this. Because now it's not this tech, these tech gurus saying, hey, don't make baby formula. It's a pediatrician, which, off the top of your head, you're automatically going to trust. Right. I mean, look at it like this. Doctors every day are prescribing medications to people because they're getting paid off. I mean, this is a known fact. We know this. This isn't a conspiracy theory. I mean, it's been proven that these big pharma companies pay doctors to prescribe you, their meds. On top of that, they're creating addicts every day. So why can't we assume that she wasn't paid off to put her name out there, Yeah,
I guess so. I'm a very trusting person in general. And obviously I want to trust the doctors because they know better than I do.
That's because they have that DR in front of their name, Dr. So-and-so.
Right.
So I'm gonna include that in my name from now on. I'm gonna tell everybody, hey, I'm a doctor, so you should listen to me because I'm a doctor. Do you think that would work?
No, because you don't look like a doctor.
Oh, I don't have to look like that through the internet. In the internet, this is just my voice. Hey, everybody, I'm a doctor, so you should listen to me. I'm not really a doctor. Don't do that. Yeah. I'm the furthest thing from a doctor. I believe in different methods, but
tough situation, and I can't imagine. I'm genuinely so sorry for anyone that is going through this, and if you guys can react and tell us how you're reacting and responding to this situation, please let us know.
Also, I'd like, anybody that listens to this, I would like you to think about how you can help with the situation. What can you do in your neighborhood, in your town, whatever it is, even if you think it's small scale, it's going to help. If you know a single mom or even a family that's having a hard time with this, how can you help them? We're talking about infants, we're talking about babies here. What can you do to help? If you can produce breast milk, can you pump a little extra and maybe, give it out to a couple families in need? I think that would be, the community needs to come together. People need to come together. Stop relying on these big companies. Stop waiting for the government to help. They're not going to help you. You need to come together with your friends, your family, your neighbors. That's what's going to have help. They're going to have your back. So don't just be there taking either. If you're, receiving help, you need to give help.
Okay, honest question. Do you think I should try pumping again?
If you think you could, do it. How many babies do you think you could feed?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if I would even be able to produce milk again after 2 years.
But it's worth a shot.
Yeah, it might be worth a shot. But if any listeners out there have any questions, comments, or concerns on this formula shortage situation, please reach out to our email, isthisevenreal1121@gmail.com, or find us on Facebook or Twitter if that's easier for you. While we're on the topic of shortages, what do you have to say about fuel, Joe?
Well, the fuel shortages are definitely a big problem. I know here in the States, I can't speak for other countries, but definitely in the States it's a problem. Right now the national average for just regular fuel is right around $4.29. That's as of yesterday. National price for diesel fuel which pretty much runs the country, everything from trains to trucks to equipment, that's sitting right around $6.75 per gallon. So, I mean, come on, we're coming up on almost $7 a gallon. That might even be touching $7 a gallon. You know, places like California where fuel is notoriously high. But that's a big problem because people don't really pay attention to trucks. And I don't understand why people don't pay attention to trucks, because if it wasn't for trucks, you wouldn't have a goddamn thing. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't have a cell phone. You wouldn't have clothing. You wouldn't have shoes. You wouldn't have food. You wouldn't have a goddamn thing without trucks. And nobody cares that these guys have to pay these high fuel prices. Well, let me just put this out there for you. Who do you think is going to pay for those fuel prices in the long run? The consumer's paying for it. Because at the end of the day, that trucking company or that owner-operator has to pay for the truck. They have to pay for insurance. They have to pay the guy to drive the truck. They're not paying for the fuel. They just push that off to the consumer, and rightfully so. So you guys are going to be paying for it. You know, it's inflation. Everything's going up. Everybody wanted minimum wage to go up, so now everything else is going up. And not only that, we have a big shortage of truck drivers in the U.S. You know, it's said to be right around 80,000 drivers short. I'm not quite sure how much I believe those numbers, but these truck drivers are getting stomped out. I mean, they're doing their best. They're hanging in as much as they can. You know, there's some tough guys out there. They're doing what they can, but these guys are getting stomped out with these fuel prices, with insurance prices, with brokers essentially stealing all the money from the load. It's crazy. I mean, I don't want to go too much into the truck driving thing. We will do that on an episode. I spent a lot of my time driving truck. That's why I guess I'm really passionate about it. So we'll do that at some point. I'll get some guys on the line here who could definitely speak in.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
because I want to know why. What's the reason for the shortage of truck drivers?
That's a great question. We can cover that. But back to the fuel. There is no shortage of fuel. There is no shortage of fuel. Gasoline, diesel, there is no shortage. This is not caused by the Ukraine and Russian war. The United States gets 3% of its petroleum products from Russia. 3%. So you're telling me a 3% loss caused prices to go up over 100%? The math doesn't add up, folks. It really doesn't. They're price gouging. They're pushing an agenda. They're pushing this electric vehicle agenda. They're pushing this, emissions agenda. Now, I'm not saying, climate change isn't real. What I'm saying is they're pushing an agenda and they're making the people pay for it. That's exactly what's going on right now. They're pushing the small businesses out of business. I mean, if you look at, I'm going to make this up right now. If you look at Bob, who owns his own truck, and, he's trying to support his family, and, he's just a good old American truck driver. He's working hard, trying to keep a roof over his wife and kid's head and do that. And then you have a massive company like Swift. Obviously they have thousands of trucks on the road, so they're getting crazy fuel discounts from the suppliers. Well, Bob's paying full price. So they're just pushing him out, And, a lot of people say, oh, well, just go work for the big company. You shouldn't be forced to have that predicament. You know what I mean? He did his job. He pays his dues. He pays his taxes just like he should. But because he doesn't have 1,000 trucks on the road, he doesn't get those same fuel discounts. So now he's going to go broke running his truck, and Swift Trucking, they're going to just keep putting inexperienced operators in the seats, crashing into people and doing their thing. There's a lot of games with it, and it's just wrong. It is just wrong. But there is no fuel shortage, people. They're just trying to take your pockets. That's all it is.
Yeah, I mean, I had to drive around town the other day only to find that the gas station I ended up going to was more expensive than the ones I passed.
Right. And how much gas did you waste driving around trying to find that
Right.
cheaper gas station?
Exactly. And I was like, I'm only putting $20 in because I can't afford this, which is absolute BS that everything is increasing in price, but our salaries are staying the same. I'm not making any more money.
Well, that's because that's a good point. So a lot of that has to do with your inflation. So obviously this is inflation. Everything's going up in price. But the problem that we are experiencing is that the inflation is happening so fast that the rest of everything else can't catch up to it. Mm-hmm. That's why we're seeing, these crazy drastic differences, I mean, think about it like this in short terms. You go buy a cheese pizza right now, with tax and everything, you're looking at least $20. I remember when you could go down the street to Domino's and you could get the 555 deal. 3 pizzas, $15, maybe 17 with the tax included, and you were out the door. You can't even get a single pizza right now for under $20. But, that was a gradual over time thing. Right now, we're just getting hit in the face with the inflation, everything going up in price. But again, just increasing people's salaries, that's not going to fix the problem. Going back to the minimum wage, right? Everybody wanted this $15 minimum wage. Well, a lot of places did that. They got the $15 minimum wage. Well, guess what happens when minimum wage goes up to $15?
Everything else goes up.
Correct, because now the business owner who has to pay everybody $15 an hour needs to increase the price on their products so that way they can remain in business and make their numbers work. So now that product that little store owner was selling for $2 now has to be $4. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Maybe not that much, but that's just an example.
Right. It's just the domino effect that people don't think about.
Correct. And another thing is, minimum wage jobs, and this I'm gonna put this statement out there, and I want everybody to really hear this. Minimum wage jobs were not designed to live off of. They are minimum wage jobs. They are for retired people who need something to do, and they're for kids trying to get up into the work field. You're in high school, you're going to go work at McDonald's. That's a minimum wage job. That's not designed to pay for a house with. That's not designed to pay all the bills with. It's a minimum wage job for a reason. You don't need any special skill sets. You don't need, special licensing. It's minimum wage for a reason. There's no need for a minimum wage job to be that high. Mm-hmm. I mean, of course, with everything else, it's relative. I'm not, an economics, major or anything like that. I don't have that. But as a regular person, I can say, if you want more money, get a better job, go to school, get a trade, get a job for shit money, work your way up and prove yourself in a company. That comes with more money, better benefits. You got to prove yourself. I myself, I own a small business, and if somebody walks in the door and they say, I want $28 an hour, and I ask him, what experience do you have? And he looks at me and he goes, well, I don't have any. Why the hell would I pay you $28 an hour and you don't even know what the fuck you're doing? Mm-hmm. It makes no sense. I have 19-year-old kids applying for jobs, and they have no clue what's going on. All they know is mom said don't take anything less than $28 an hour with full benefits. Get out of here. Go back to school. Go back, live in your fantasy world. That's just asinine.
It's insane that we just think that we can pull this money out of nowhere and give it to people with no skill set.
It's a money tree. Everybody has a money tree, right? Mm-hmm. If you're in business, everybody assumes that you have a ton of money. That's the furthest thing from the fucking truth. Mm-hmm. A lot of small businesses, man, they're struggling. They're struggling just because they work for themselves and because they quote unquote own a business doesn't mean they have a lot of money. It really doesn't.
Yeah, and after the pandemic, I'm sure those business owners either failed and went under or are struggling to survive right now.
Yeah, a lot of them went out of business because they couldn't afford it. You know, they weren't getting the handouts like these massive companies like Boeing. You know, they were getting these massive handouts. Small businesses weren't getting those massive handouts. They were getting a little bit of help, but nothing sufficient. And I think I can speak for most business owners, most small business owners at least, when I say that the government kind of fucked us on that one, which, I mean, it's the government. That, you know, we're not slipping any money in their pockets, so why are they going to help us, right?
Yeah. They're going to stomp you right out.
Exactly.
You're useless to them.
Right, you know, but unfortunately that's the backbone of America. That's how this country was made, you know, small stores, you know, independent dealerships, stuff like that. It's a disposable society that we live in now, and it's pretty sad. It's a disposable society. You know, if it's broken, just throw it out. That's how we look at things. That's why this world is so polluted. I mean, you know, that's a whole nother rant, man. I can't even begin to touch that right now. I'll keep everybody here for hours talking about that stuff. But yeah, the fuel thing, that's a problem. The baby formula thing, that's definitely a problem. And I know another big one is rent.
I know mine just went up when I renewed my lease.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long I can afford it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a problem. The rents are going up. You know, housing is ridiculous right now. A lot of landlords are requesting ridiculous things for you to even move in. Now, like you just said, how long are you going to be able to afford this apartment?
There's going to be a lot of praying involved within next year.
Yeah, and it's probably only going to go up next year.
Oh yeah, that's what I heard from my neighbor, that it goes up every year with these landlords I have.
Yeah, so this brings an interesting question to the mix. For one, do you think rent control is a good thing, or is it a bad thing? Do you think that these landlords, so this is question 2, do you think that these landlords are, I guess, in their right? They're doing what they're allowed to do? Like, do you think they're doing what they should, or do you think that they're being greedy about, you know, what they're doing? What are your 2 points on those?
I do think that they're being greedy, and I also do believe that there should be some sort of rent control. I mean, obviously, they own this house; they can do whatever they want with it, but it should be within reason. You know, when we apply, they have to know what our salary is. They know from the get-go how much I can afford, how much potential tenants can afford. You can't just expect people to suddenly be able to pay more rent because you feel like it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So, do you think they're right for what they're doing?
I don't think they're necessarily right, but I don't think they're wrong either.
So where do you stand on it?
I like where I live, and I'm willing to pay as much as I have to stay here.
Well, that is if you can afford what they bring it up to. I mean,
correct.
Now, I'm not going to get into specific numbers right here, but hypothetically, say they turn around and they tell you they're putting the rent up another $1,000 from what you're paying right now. I know that sounds drastic, but say they turn around and they say, oh, it's going to be an additional $1,000 a month for this unit. You're not going to be able to afford that. I mean, maybe you can, maybe you can't, but I don't think many people could do that.
No, that's, for me, that would be like a 30% increase in rent, which is absurd. I could not afford that at all.
So what would you do?
I would probably end up moving back in with my parents who own their own house.
Yeah. So I'm going to call that a luxury, you know, being able to have that option.
Yep.
A lot of people don't have that option.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was scrolling Facebook earlier today, and you know how Facebook has all the community pages. And by the way, I I hate even saying the name Facebook, but unfortunately it's a platform that I do use because it's a good way to get in touch with communities and whatnot. So I was going through one of those pages, and I'm not going to say her name. I'm just going to use her example. This young mom, she posted up on the page saying how how she's having a hard time finding a place to live with her and her 2 children. She's a single mom. She's working 2 jobs. And essentially what she said was, my credit's so-so. I don't have a rental history because I was homeless for X amount of time. So she has no rental history. And, she's trying to find a place for her and her kids. She has these 2 jobs. She has money to move in, saved up. She has her car. But these landlords want you to make 3 and 4 times the monthly rent. So now you're talking about needing anywhere from $5,000 to $5,000+ just to move in up front, And then that doesn't say that they're not going to raise that rent. So this single mom literally has no options. She's in a shelter right now with the kids, and because she doesn't make enough money to qualify for 3 to 4 times the rental price, nobody will give her a shot. And I think that is absolutely disgusting that she's in that predicament.
Yeah, I will say these landlords have crazy guidelines, stipulations.
Yeah.
God forbid you have a pit bull
Yeah,
or a German Shepherd.
That's right.
You're going to get turned down immediately. Or, these landlords are just, I feel like they have to bring their expectations down a little bit.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on needing to bring their expectations down. Now, here's where I have a tough time with this whole rental thing. When you purchase a property and you're intending to use that property as a rental property for residential stuff. I'm not talking commercial. I'm talking about apartments to live in. When you buy that property and you plan on renting it out, you are investing your money up front. You're paying the insurance. You're cleaning it up, getting it ready. And at the end of the day, you own it. Therefore, it's your little business. Now, when you own a business, you can charge whatever you want. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You're in a business to make money. That's why people start businesses. You're not going to start a business because you just feel like it and you're like, if I break even, who cares? No, you're there to make money. Mm-hmm. But how much is enough?
Right.
Where's that line? Because I think that what these landlords are charging, and even to the point of what they require for you to even apply, never mind to get in, what you need to apply is fucking ridiculous. And a lot of it these days is invasive, if I must say so. Mm-hmm. I do disagree with a lot of the practices, but as far as the amount that people are charging, I mean, I think they should be making money because that's why they're doing this. But I also feel as though they should be reasonable with it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's all we ask. We're fucking humans.
That's it. I mean, if you own a duplex, right? Hypothetically, you own a duplex and you bought the house. So the mortgage on a duplex is probably going to be somewhere around, $1,000, $1,500 a month or something like that. You're going to rent each unit out. I'm seeing a lot of duplexes renting out for $2,500 plus on each unit. That's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Why not? Why can't you just charge something that's essentially fair? You're going to charge off of both units. You're going to charge enough to pay all the bills for that property, to pay the insurance for that property and the mortgage, and then to put some money away in the bank so that way you're profiting and you're making money off it. But the fact that these people are charging, way more than what it even costs for the property, tenfold, it's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And now you don't even have you don't even have people doing that. Companies are coming in and buying up all these multifamilies. So that's something that's an issue too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the renters market is not kind right now. And I mean, I get the landlord's perspectives in that they want to make money, but like you said, they should be reasonable, because at the end of the day, we're human. We can only do so much. But at the same time, like I said, I'm going to pay whatever as long as I can afford it to stay where I am. So I get both sides.
So I personally don't see any change in this whole rental game. I don't see any change happening until people put their foot down. Once people put their foot down and they're like, look, I'd rather go sleep in a tent. I'm not paying $4,000 a month for your shithole one-bedroom apartment. You know what I mean? It's just, until people say this is enough, it's not going to change. You know what's going to change it? Leave all of these overpriced apartments empty. Move out. Leave them empty. And then all these property owners that own them, they're not going to make anything. So then they're going to put the prices down back to where it should be reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Either that, or maybe someday, these people just wake up magically and they're going to go, wow, I should probably be reasonable about my rent. But I highly doubt that.
Right. Well,
now, here's a good question. If we have any listeners that are property owners for rental properties, I would like to hear your feedback on this. Why do you charge a lot? Are you reasonable? Or do you think you're reasonable, but you actually charge a lot? Let us know. We're also going to be coming up with a little bit better of a schedule, so you guys know when the episodes are coming out, and we're gonna try to keep it to 1 to 2 episodes per week. That's all still in the works, but please stay tuned. Check us out on social media. Give us a like, hit the follow button, and thanks for listening, guys. Hope everybody has a safe night.